This is the Vauxhall Insignia, and for me, it's always been a very intriguing car. You see, it's fair to say that this car hasn't exactly had the most illustrious of histories. The first Insignia, now that's a Vectra, you've gone too far back. Well, that's a Cavalier, you've gone even further back, you numpty. There you go, that's the kiddie. The first Insignia was a bit, well, rubbish. It looked nice, but it wasn't particularly comfortable, particularly quiet, particularly practical, particularly well equipped, or particularly cheap. And yet, despite all of that, the Insignia was still one of the best-selling cars in the country, and you saw them absolutely ruddy everywhere. I always found that a bit baffling, and so to see if there was something I was missing about the Insignia, I decided to take the plunge and spend 6 months in the latest one. As it turns out though, my noble little experiment was scuppered before it had even begun, because the latest Insignia is actually really rather good. You'll notice I went for the estate version, or sports tourer as Vauxhall calls it, and that means practicality is key. As anyone with 2 toddlers will tell you, the amount of stuff you have to cart about is staggering, and the Insignia's 560-litre boot means you can carry double buggies, strollers, bikes, bags, coats and wellies without even having to think about packing. Just sling it all in and off you go. Is it the most practical car of its type? Well, no, but it's really not far off, and it is still plenty practical enough for my family's needs. It also excelled when even more space was needed. Whether it was taking a broken cooker to the dump or collecting a second-hand chest of drawers that the other half had bought off the internet, the Insignia coped with ease. Is it the highest quality car of its type? No, but it's still a very sophisticated place to sit, and the seats in particular are absolutely ace. Does it lead the class for ergonomics and ease of use? No, but everything's still pretty easy to use, so you're not going to have many complaints on that score. Is it the safest car of its type? No, but it still has loads of standard safety equipment, with even more available on the options list, and it also has 5 Euro NCAP stars. And is it the best car of its type to drive? Well, no, but guess what? It's really not far off. It's not a car that's ever going to set your pulse racing, but the handling is secure, predictable and stable. More importantly, the ride always stays impressively smooth and comfortable, and in a family car, that is the most important thing. The 1.6 litre diesel engine's got a reasonable amount of punch, and it's capable of some fairly decent speed when you need it, and the 49 miles per gallon we've been getting out of our car since we've had it isn't at all bad either. There's a pattern emerging here which you've probably spotted already. Okay, so the Insignia doesn't exactly blow away its rivals in any given area, but crucially, it's really strong in pretty much all areas. And the fact that it's such a good all-rounder makes it a really appealing proposition, even in the midst of really talented cars like the Volkswagen Passat and Skoda Superb. And if you compare it with the previous Insignia, it is more or less unrecognisable. That's not all that's unrecognisable between the new Insignia and the old. There's also the price, but in a really good way. Despite being a vastly superior car, the latest Insignia is also much cheaper in comparison in terms of list price, and however you come by your car, whether it's as a private buyer or more likely as a company car driver, that pays big dividends. Pick the right version like our 1.6 diesel, and the low CO2 emissions will also help keep your running costs down. Is the car perfect? Lord no. The washer jets give you a feeble trickle of fluid that barely makes it as far as the windscreen. There are a few areas where the interior trim doesn't quite line up flush enough, and also 1 or 2 bits of trim that have dropped off altogether. But apart from that, it is very difficult to find fault with the Insignia. So now that the Insignia is worthy of being a bestseller, should you consider buying one? Well, we'd say yes, but in a cruel twist of irony, the chances are you probably won't. You see, as SUV sales have rocketed in the last few years, it's the traditional family car, cars like the Insignia, that have suffered as a result, and sales have taken an absolute nosedive. Yes, the Insignia is now the car it always should have been, but unfortunately that's happened just a little bit too late. Still, if you're after a great all-round family car and you're not dead set on following the herd into SUV ownership, then have yourself a go in one of these. We think you'll be pleasantly surprised.